Hare Krishna. Nice to see everybody. Please forgive me for being so late. As I mentioned, it's been a little bit of an intense day today. So we'll go ahead and start. I'm not even sure what we're talking about, but I think we have something will work out. Gora Graganya Gana Gocha Goloruharam Goranga Gura Tamago Pyurakopa Briksham Gopala Gada Ratidam Yati Singha Gora Govinda Deshikavaram Satatam Namami Uttama Adama Kichuna Bachila Jachiya Dile Kakola Kahe Premananda Hemona Goranga Hridaya Dadiya Bola Bhaja Goranga Kaha Goranga Laha Gorangera Namare Jai Jana Goranga Bhaje Se Hoya Mara Pranare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Yashaiva Padambuja Bhakti Labhya Prema Vidana Parama Pumata Tasmai Jagan Mangala Mangalaya Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Madhavirapi Gopala Srikriyat Kripaya Jari Tadaiva Samvaya Pitva Vishyustat Priya Janaha Shri Krishna Krishna Chaitanya Sasanatana Rupaka Gopala Raghunatha Brajabala Vapahimam Vamshakalpatarubhishcha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanubhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So reading from Embankment of Separation, this is chapter 3, which speaks about two opposites in one container. And I just put this on the screen. This Guru Maharaj is describing the mercy of Mahaprabhu. And he cites this poem, which he often sings. Uttama Adama Kichina Bachi Lajachi Adile Kako Kahe Premananda Emuna Goranga Hridaya Dari Dapo. He says that we sing this before reading Caitanya-caritamrta. Mahaprabhu never discriminates whether one is Uttam or Adam, most elevated or most degraded. He never discriminates. He offers and embraces, please come to my fold, such as Gauranga. Premananda Das Thakur says, keep that Gauranga in your heart. So this is a beautiful description of the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which we've been hearing something about. And he goes on to speak more about it. He cites Premananda Das Thakur. Honestly, this next verse, it's a little uncertain who wrote this Bhaja Gauranga, Kaha Gauranga. Some people say that it was directly composed by Nityananda Prabhu himself. I don't know. But I've not found it in any of the writings of Premananda Das. So maybe Guru Maharaj is just saying this in his lecture. I don't know. But we should worship Gauranga Mahaprabhu. We should chant the name of Gauranga Mahaprabhu. We should speak about Mahaprabhu. Jai Jana Gauranga Bhaji Sehoy Amara Prana Re. That person who does Gauranga Bhajan, that person's my life and soul. Meaning I want to associate with devotees who are like that. Devotees who are taking shelter of the holy name. Devotees who are worshiping the holy name in the mood of the Gaudiyas, in the mood of Gauranga Mahaprabhu. So he speaks about how Gauranga is Krishna, but he's Krishna with the greed to understand and relish Radha Prem, the love that Radharani has. Therefore, he's Sachi Garbha Sindhu. He came from the womb of Sachi Mata to fulfill three desires, three types of greed. Radhaya, Pranaya Mahima Kiddiso, what's the glories of Radha's love? Swadyo Yena Bhuta Madhurima Kiddisova. How does Radharani relish my beauty? How can you see your own face? Can you relish it? How can you understand Krishna thinks? I just realized I'm a little spaced out today. I'm giving class on the wrong subject. We're supposed to be speaking about the Mangalacarana prayers. Instead, we're working on embankment of separation, which we were doing just a couple of days ago. Okay, I'm going to switch gears, and we're going to go back to Mangalacarana, which anyway, we just read something from that. Just please forgive me and just take it for granted. This guy's an idiot. What can we do? And today we have a little less time because we're working on our one of our retreats coming up in January with Dhanadhar Maharaj, and I have to have a meeting with him in about 40 minutes from now, 40 minutes from now. Let's see. So we've been going through the Mangalacarana prayers and giving an overview of them after going through the whole entire thing. And we spoke something about how these first verses are kind of like a general thing, which Guru Maharaj is speaking for persons to understand in a general way, according to their faith, according to their position. And he recites Om Jnana-timirandasya and Sri Caitanya-manobhishtam, the prayers to Rupa Goswami, and he recites this basic prana, this basic Mangalacarana that we, what is it? No, that we have from Caitanya-caritamrta, not Namashreshtam, what is it? The most basic Mangalacarana there is.
Vandeham Shri Guru.
Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutupada Kamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnava. Who was it that said that? Chirtakar Prabhu?
Leela Purushottam.
Leela Purushottam. Thank you, Leela. You saved me. So we spoke some of about those verses in Mahavadanyaya and Tapta Kanchan and Gaurangi and how he has Hey Krishna Kuna ascended before Tapta Kanchan and Gaurangi. And Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha, and how these verses are general verses for devotees according to their adhikar and according to give them something which they feel comfortable with. And then he goes on to speak some verses which I think are for himself. And I'm just trying to come to that verse. Remember which it is. We were speaking about the No Mahavadanyaya verse. Okay. And then after that, he goes on to you're going to go now on a pine? I go. Krishna Chaitanya. So we're speaking about how Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu is the mirror of the emotions of Srimati Radharani. Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami says, Radhikara Bhava Murti Prabhu Antara Se Bhavi Sukha Dukha Uti Nirantara Shani Lilaya Prabhu Krishna Viraha Ummada Brahma Moya Chesta Ar Pralapa Moya Bada. That Mahaprabhu is the image of Radhika's emotions. And because of that, he has pain, feelings of pleasure and pain arising constantly within his heart, because that's the mood of Srimati Radharani. It's a mood of great contradictions. We've been speaking from the third chapter of the Embankment of Separation, and we'll be speaking soon about how the different opposites within the love of Srimati Radharani, and how these opposites are there and how do we understand them. Very interesting subject matter. I'm just trying to find where I was left out here this last time. I think we didn't have a session last week. Oh, so then Guru Maharaj went on to verse 7. Yadadvaitam Brahma. This was the verse I think we spoke on last time. Can anybody tell me? I think we did this Yadadvaitam verse last session, didn't we?
Yes, I think so.
Okay. So let me just look at that for a moment. Anyway, this verse is speaking about from the Upanishads and how we should understand that worshiping Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu is not just some sentimental thing. It's not just some cult, but actually he's the impersonal Brahman. That's the effulgence of his body. He's the super soul and is the supreme personality of Godhead. So this is a verse which is in Caitanya-caritamrta in a couple of places. Kaviraj Goswami speaks that. And I think Gour Maharaj is speaking that verse to tell the devotees that, look, this is going to be something a little more philosophical. And then he went on to text number 8, which I don't know if we did not either, but I'm just going to bring it up. 8 is mangalacarana. Radha Krishna Pranaya Vrikitir Vadani Shakti Rashman Ekatmanavapi Bhuvipura Deha Vedam Gato To Chaitanya Kyam Prakatamaduna Tadayam Chekyam Aptam Yat Radha Baba Duty Sivalitam Nomi Krishna Surupam. So now he's informing the devotees that we're going to speak about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And who is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? He's Radha Krishna Pranaya Vrikitur. He's the transformation of the pranaya, when Radha and Krishna become one, when that Hladini Shakti manifests, and these two now they become one. And they're known as Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he's manifest with the mood and the complexion of Srimati Radharani, although he's Krishna himself. And this, of course, is a very famous and important verse, especially this particular line. I quote very often, Radha Baba Dyuti Suvalitam Nomi Krishna Surupam. Although he's Krishna Surup, Radha Baba Dyuti Suvalitam. His mood, his bhava, and his duty, his complexion, is that of Srimati Radharani. And then Guru Maharaj goes on to text number 9. Chirada datam nija gupta vitam swaprema namamritam aptidaraha aparmanam yo vitatara gora krishno janebhyastamaham prapadye. Again, he's speaking something about Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu and what he came to give. Anarpita chirim charat karuna avatirna kala. We're speaking quite a bit about this verse, which also comes later. How the same word chirat is used there. That is something which hadn't been given before at all. And what is he giving? Nija gupta vitam. Something, Nija means his own. Vitam's a treasure. Gupta means something hidden. It's his swaprema, his own prema, which is namamrita, the nectar of the holy name. And this is the bhajan of Srimati Radharani. And we spoke so much about this before. I'll just touch on it because it's such an important thing. The bhajan of Gauranga Mahaprabhu is a bhajan of Srimati Radharani. Bhajan of Srimati Radharani means the Sakis and Manjaris are doing bhajan not for themselves. In this world, everybody's doing bhajan for themselves to make advancement, to get love of God, to become free from material desires, to get liberation, etc., etc. But the Sakis of Srimati Radharani, they do bhajan to help Radharani mitigate her feelings of separation from Krishna. So when we speak the Swaprema Namamrita Achyudaraha, this is his confidential, his Nija Gupta Vitam, which is Swaprema Namamrita. It's in the form of nectar of himself, nectar of love for himself and the holy name. Apamanam yo vitatata go Krishna Janevyas Tamaham Prapadye. That personality is Krishna himself, and he's giving this thing to the most fallen, degraded persons. He's not distinguishing, as Raghunath Das Goswami describes, Nirupadi Karunena Shisachinandanena. That Mahaprabhu's Karuna is Nirupadika Karuna. There's no designations. He doesn't say, oh, these are Ukrainian devotees, I'll give them mercy. And these are Russian devotees, no, we're not going to give mercy to them. He gives mercy to everyone, to every living entity. That's the nature of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. So Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is speaking about this, and Gour Maharaj is stressing this point. Then he goes on to describe this verse from Srila Raghunandan Goswami, from his Gauranga Viradavali, which is a very little known book. Raghunandan Goswami, we spoke about him before. He's in the line of Nityananda Prabhu. And he's saying in this verse that Gora such charitamrtam nidhi goram sadaivas today. That Mahaprabhu's pastimes were just like a river, which is coming. It's not coming drop by drop, like a bindu, but they're coming in such a vast river. And what is it that he's giving? Gorena pratitam rahasya bhajanam. He's giving the rahasya bhajan, which again, this is the bhajan Radharani. The associates of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu are all gopis. And Mahaprabhu is Krishna himself. And when he comes in the Gambhira, he has Lalita and Vishaka in the form of Sri Damodar and Roy Ramananda doing bhajan to help him understand the mood of Srimati Radharani. In the same way that Srimati Radharani is experiencing separation, and the Sakis and Manjaris gather together to do bhajan to pacify her. This is the Rahasya bhajan of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. It's such a very, very amazing thing. Goradasti Kripalu Rata, we're not going to find anyone who's more merciful than Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. I'm going to become the Britya. I want to become the servant of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. Meaning, I want to become the servant of the servant of the servant, because Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, he says in one place that Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, says in Chaitanya Bhagavad, he tells Srivas Thakur that you're so dear to me that what to speak of you, but even your servants will always see my pastimes. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta comments there, he says that this means that the servants going down to the present day and age, they're going to be able to see these pastimes of Gauranga Mahaprabhu. So he's praying then that this Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, I want to preach about Mahaprabhu. This is our purpose, to preach about the glories of Mahaprabhu, and Gaura Prabhu Rakshana. May that Supreme Personality of God, Gauranga Mahaprabhu, may he protect me. And then he speaks of another verse, which, as I recall, we weren't able to find. Maybe this is also from Raghunandan Goswami. Madhuyai madhubi sudambi bhajana sandambujam varnam karunamrita nijarhai upachita sat prema hemachalaha vaktam bodha vidharani vijayani niskampa sampavali daivo nakula daivatam vijayatam chaitanya Krishna Hari. And he's saying that I worship Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, who's Madhuyai Madhubi. He's completely absorbed in Madhurja Ras. And Swanambujam Vanam. He's Krishna himself, but he's come with this golden complexion. And this Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu is so merciful. Karun Amrita. He's giving this mercy, which is this nectarian mercy. It's the mercy of Srimati Radharani. And he's pouring that down like a waterfall. When a waterfall comes down, when heavy rains come, as the previous verse describes, like a river, the rains don't consider whether this is a desert or this is the ocean, whether this is a qualified person or not a qualified person, whether there's a drought going on or not a drought going on. but they're distributed to everyone. And then Guru Maharaj recites another verse, which is kind of a standard verse for a lot of Gaudiya Vaishnavas. It's the first verse of Chaitanya Bhagavat, which is kind of a pranam mantra for Sri Sri Gaur Nitai. And we went through all these things elaborately. I'm just giving an overview of the mangalacarana prayers now. Ajanalambato bhujo kanakava dato sankirtanaika pitaro kamalaya taksho vishvambaro dvijavaro yugadharma palo vade jagat priyakaro karuna avataro. And he describes the forms of Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu, who have arms all the way down to their knees. And both of them have a very beautiful complexion, which is like molten gold, kanakava dato. And he's Mahaprabhu Sankirtanaika Pitaro. He's the father of the Sankirtan movement. Kamalaya Taksha. He has his eyes are just like red lotus flowers. Vishvambaro Dvijavaro. He's a topmost Brahmin, and he's Vishvambar. He's a personality who's maintaining the whole universe because Yuga Dharma Palo. He's nourishing the Yuga Dharma. And it's interesting. It's not just giving the Yuga Dharma, but he's nourishing the Yuga Dharma. That's an incidental activity which is going on with Gauranga Mahaprabhu. It's not his primary activity. It's a secondary activity. Vande Jagat Priyakaro Karuna Avataro. I offer my pranam to these great personalities who are full of mercy and saving all the living entities in this world. And then he speaks more from the Dagda Madhav, Rupa Goswami's Mangalacarana. Dagda Madhav, which speaks about Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. This is a verse, as we commented before, was composed by Rupa Goswami in Siddhabakul in Jagannath Puri. And Mahaprabhu saw this verse and he was not happy with it. He wanted to throw it away, but Rupa Goswami hid the verse. Anarpita chiryam chirat karuna avachinat kalosamat paita manujala rasam svabhakti shriyam hari parata sundara duti siddha kadamba sandipitaha sadahridaya kandares paratuva sachinandaraha. And we spoke at length on this verse. This is such a beautiful verse. That's something which has not been given in a long, long time before. What is that thing? Karuna avatarnat kalo. He's come. He's the avatar of mercy who's come in the age of Kali. Samat paitam, to give what? Unata ujvala rasa. Madhurja ras, but not just Madhurja ras, but Unata ujvala rasa swabhakti shriya. The essence of Madhurja ras, which is Manjari Bhav, which Prabhupada doesn't bring out exactly in the translation, but we read some commentary on this, which is ascribed to Jiva Goswami, and he brings this point out, and other Vaishnavas do. It's actually a very clear point, but sometimes we don't speak about that so much in public. So we offer our respectful obeisances to Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu and Sada Hridaya Kandares Parativa Sachinandana. We pray that he may appear in the kandari, inside the cave of our heart. The Prabhupada translates it here, the innermost chambers. Kanda means that the cave, the inner hidden place. And may he manifest there. In other words, again, this is not just something for some ritualistic activity or some formal religion, but this is something where our heart should be taking part in. And then Guru Maharaj quotes 3 verses from Prem Bhakti Chandrika Nautam Das Thakur. And again, all of these things we spoke about at length. I'm not going elaborately into them. But he says, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Deva Rati Mati Bhavi Bhaja Prema Kolpataru Bharadhata Shri Bhaja Rajanandana Radhikara Jivanadana Aparupa E Shabakata. We should always worship Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is that great Deva, that great Lord, who's giving Rati Mati Bhavi, who's giving the pure love for Krishna. He's a Prema Kolpataru. He's a wish-fulfilling tree. So we should be careful what we ask from him. He's Braja Nandana, the king of Braj, Krishna. And he's Radhika Jivanadana. He's the life of Srimati Radharani. Aparupa E Sabakata. We should hear topics about him. We should hear these subject matters. It's a very important thing. Aparupa. These are not ordinary subject matters. So we should understand this. This is a message that he's giving to the devotees who are hearing the Mangalacarana, that you should understand this is not just like something in school or, as we comment, a commercial on television or something, but this is something transcendental. And then he goes on to speak more about Mahaprabhu from Narottam Das, is a Prem Bhakti Chandrika, Navadvipe Avatari, that he's appeared in Navadvip Dham, Radha Bhava Angikari. He's adopted the mood and the complexion of Srimati Radharani. That's his Angikari, his bodily ornament that he has. Tara Kanti Angara Bhushan. This is his Bhushan, his ornament of his Anga, his body. The Kanti, or the complexion of Srimati Radharani. Tina Vancha Abhilasi Sachi Garbe Parakasi Sange Lana Parishadagani. And then he's come with this Abhilash, this desire to satisfy these three desires. Shri Radhaya Panaya Mahima Kiddisovanaya Swadyoyina Buddha Madhurima Kiddisova Madhya Sokyam Chashimana Bhava the Kiddisam Veti Loba to Baba Jas Imagine Sachigarda Sundar Harindu. Three desires which Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami speaks about in the 6th verse of Caitanya-caritamrta, which Gour Maharaj quotes quite a bit, is a very, very fundamental, foundational, important verse to understand Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He's Krishna, but he has these Tina Vancha Abhilas, he has these three desires by which he's come Sachi Garbe Parakasi, he's come in the womb of Sachi Mata, and Sangha Lana Parishada Gan. Very, very important. His associates also appear with him. We just finished giving a few classes that we're mentioning on chapter 3 of Embankment of Separation. And Gour Maharaj speaks there about the same point, Sangha Parishada Gan, how Mahaprabhu, or Srila Bhaktisiddhanta says, Mahaprabhu is an extended subject. And if we want to worship him, we have to also worship the devotees. You can't separate the devotees from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he gave his mercy through those devotees. And in Madhya Lila, I think it's chapter 23, I have to look, Kaviraj Goswami gives a number of verses how it's only the gopis who can relish and nourish and spread. Vistara means to spread or expand. It's only the gopis who are able to expand the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. And so this is Nikunja Yunarati Keli Siddhyai. This is something very, very special. Krishna himself has come in so many different incarnations, but when he comes as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, now he's coming with his associates. And those associates are so important because those are gopi janas. And those gopis are required to be able to understand, to be able to relish, to be able to expand the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. So Sange Lana Parishadagan. This is something Gour Maharaj spoke about quite a bit. And then he went on the 3rd verse from Prem Bhakti Chandrika, Gora Hari Avatari, Premyaravadarakari. That Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he's a golden avatar. He's come to give this pure love for Krishna. Sadila Maneratina Kaj. And by doing this, he fulfilled his three desires. These three desires are such a very, very important topic. Pretty much we could say the entire embankment of separation of Gour Maharaj's, all of his Caitanya-caritamrta classes, which this Mangalacarana is kind of a window to, or a door to, all of them were more or less for the purpose of helping devotees to understand the mood of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, which is such a very, very important thing. And a rare thing in our day and age for devotees to speak about. And he says that Radhikara Pranapati Kiva Bhavi Kandinati Viha Bhuji Bhakata Samaj. That Mahaprabhu, he's come, he's the Pranapati, he's the Lord of the life of Srimati Radharani. And only the devotees can understand this thing. Srimati Radharani Kiva Bhavi Kandinati, she's crying and crying, and only the devotees of Bhakta Samaj, only those devotees, they can understand this subject matter, why Krishna is in the mood of Radha and crying for himself. Excuse me. And then he quotes these verses from Premananda Das, the first from Premananda, and the second, as we said, perhaps from Nityananda Prabhu. Speaking further about the mercy of Mahaprabhu, And then it's Nirupadika Karuna, as we were mentioning from Raghunath Das Goswami. He doesn't make any designation, whether who's Uttam, who's Adam, Kichuna Bachil. He just freely gives mercy to everyone. And as we've commented before, because when Krishna comes in the mood of Radha, the Karuna Shakti, which is normally controlled by the Icha Shakti, Krishna's desire potency, the mercy potency is controlled by the desire potency. Now that desire, that mercy potency is free, and there's no discrimination. Whereas usually with Krishna, he says, "Yeyatam mam prapadyante tam sataiva bhajamiham," that I make some distinguishing. I look to see how much they're surrendering and things, and I reciprocate accordingly with them. So then we started to comment on this when we were reading from Banquet of Separation. I'll continue our line there. That Bhaja Goranga Kaha Goranga Laha Goranga Namare Jajana Goranga Bhaji Sehoy Amara Prana. That you should worship Goranga Mahaprabhu, chant his name, speak about Mahaprabhu. And anyone who does that, Sehoy Amara Prana Re. That personality is my life and soul. But as we've often commented, hearing from Guru Maharaj and other lectures, what does it mean to worship Gauranga Mahaprabhu? Jagadananda Pandit in Prema Vivarta, he says that Gorada Ami, Mukhi Bolili Nachale. That there's some people who are jumping up and down and saying, Gorada Ami, I'm a devotee of Gauranga Mahaprabhu, I'm a devotee of Gauranga Mahaprabhu. But Jagadananda Pandit says that personality who is preaching the teachings of Mahaprabhu and following those teachings, he gets the fruit of being a devotee of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He's a genuine devotee of Mahaprabhu. So sometimes devotees take this to mean these kind of things, that we should chant Mahaprabhu's name or the name of Nityananda, not pausing to think for a moment, why is it that our acharyas didn't do that? If Mahaprabhu was so much more merciful than Radha and Krishna, Nityananda was even more merciful yet, well, why chant Radha Krishna's name when there's 10 offenses? We'll just chant Mahaprabhu's name and Nityananda's name. But there's a reason why our acharyas didn't give that thing. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Chaitanya Bhagavat, he says that Jadi Amar Prati Sneha Taki Sabakar Tabi Krishna Vyakti Rikta Naga Ibaya. If you love me, you love my instructions. One of the first classes I attended with my Guru Maharaj, he quoted this verse and he pointed at me. My name at the time was Nityananda Das. And he says, Nityananda, he said, if you love me, you love my instructions. And what is my instruction? Don't chant any other name. Don't chant Mahaprabhu's name, Nityananda's name. Chant the name of Krishna. Because this is Krishna's business. Why he's coming as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, to taste the mood of Radharani. Not to chant his own name. He's not come to give his own name. Nityananda has not come to give that. But they've come to give us this very, very confidential bhajan, Anarpita Chirim Chirat Karuna Avatina Karo, which hadn't been given in such a long, long time before. So by doing that bhajan, we'll get their mercy. Someone may do some other bhajan. They may chant the names of Gauranga, and that's very, very good. They'll get so much benefit, but you'll get more benefit if we follow in the line of Rupa Goswami, who's Rupa Manjari. So then he goes on to Caitanya-caritamrta, Prabodhananda Saraswati, one of the mangalacarana verses he gives there, a few of them, two of them. Yashaiva padambu jabhakti labhyaha premabhidhana parama pumartaha tasmai jagan mangala mangalaya Caitanya-caritamrta namo namaste. And Guru Maharaj should always repeat this, Caitanya-caritamrta namo namaste, Caitanya-caritamrta namo namaste, again and again. And there's a beautiful verses speaking about if someone worships Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's lotus feet, then bhakti labhya, we can get this pure love of Krishna. If we worship him as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, if we worship him as Krishna, that's something else. But if we worship him in the mood of a devotee who's come to teach us to do Krishna bhajan, in the mood of a servant of Srimati Radharani, that's Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. Then bhakti labhya, we get that very special bhakti, which is characterized by prema, premabhidhana parama pumarta, which is the ultimate goal of everything. And therefore, tasmai jagan mangala mangalaya. I offer my obeisances again and again to that personality who's who's the auspiciousness of all the auspiciousness of the universe. That's Srimati Radharani, or that's Krishna when he's come in the mood of Radharani. Caitanya-caritamrta, that person who's just like a moon. Sometimes we say that it is Krishna Chandra, but when Krishna comes in the mood of Srimati Radharani, then it's it's a Purnima, because that Kanti, that effulgence of Srimati Radharani is there. That mood of Srimati Radharani is there. And so just like the moon is very, very effulgent, so also Mahaprabhu is so effulgent. And just as the moon nourishes all the vegetables, gives life to everything, so also this moonlight of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gives life to the bhakti in this age. And so, Namo Namaste, I offer my obeisances to him again and again and again. Ananda Lilamaya Vigrahaya Hemabi Divya Chavisundaraya Tasmai Mahaprema Risapradaya Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste, Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste. That he's a Vigraha, he's the embodiment of Ananda Lilamaya. Lilamoya. He's the embodiment of these ecstatic, blissful pastimes of Radha and Krishna. He is Krishna enjoying pastimes of tasting the mood of Radharani. And therefore, Hemabi Divya Chavi Sundara. He's come, Hemaba Divya, he's come in this golden complexion. Tasmaya Mahaprema Rasapradaya. You're that personality who's giving Mahaprema Rasapradaya. Right? Not just prema, but Mahaprema, not just Mahaprema, but Mahaprema Rasa, the mood of Srimati Radharani, Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste, Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste. And we've come to the end of the Mangalacarana. Great. So then Guru Maharaj quotes this other verse from Caitanya-caritamrta. Yanaptam karma nishtaya nacha samadhi gatam yat tapo dhyana yogaya vairagyas tagat tatvat stuti bir api nayat tarkitam chapi kaischit Govinda prema bhajam api nachakalitam yad rahashyam swayamtan namnaiva pradurasid avatarati pade yat tatam nomi goram. That Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, he's not understood by these personalities who are trying to approach him, who are nishta in karma, who are fixed so that I should do some karma kanda activities. And even someone who's samadhi gatam, who's attained samadhi, who's doing tapasya, who's doing jhana and yoga, vairagya, tyaga, who's giving up everything, who's meditating, who's become a great yogi. They can't get this thing, not tarkitam. And even just by arguing, by speculating, these things are not available. Tattva stuti bir, even may understand tattva, you may stuti bir, you may be offering different prayers and things to the Lord. But these things have not been understood unless someone takes shelter of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. And he says, even Govinda Prema Bhajan, even the devotees who have love for Govinda, the secret, this Rahasya Swayam, the secret of bhakti, this has been revealed. Nam naiva pradurasat avatarati pade yattatam nomi goram. This has been revealed by Gauranga Mahaprabhu. So this is Guru Maharaj's Mangalacarana prayers. He was very proud of these Mangalacarana prayers. I heard him sometimes comment on them. He once told us, he said that these are very special. He said, no one has Mangalacarana prayers like this exactly. And as I've sometimes commented, I think, sometimes we're invited to programs with the Gaudiya Math, or sometimes even with Babaji's. And when different senior Vaishnavas are speaking, they take pride in their Mangalacarana prayers. And they'll recite, sometimes they recite quite long prayers. They recite some things, and everybody has their special Mangalacarana. Guru Maharaj is very, very proud of these. And these prayers are something which are Vastu Nirdesh. There's something which defines the object, as we were hearing from Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. They're Ashirvad, they offer some benediction, and they're also Namaskar. They're also offering obeisances. And they're spoken in a way, as Baladeva Vibhushan recommends in the beginning of his commentary on Jiva Goswami's Tattva Sandarbha, that we should speak in a way understanding, first of all, the adhikar, the persons we're speaking to, And secondly, the sambandha, or what is their position? What is their connection with the subject matter? What is their connection with the speaker? So this is something very, very special. Srila Prabhupada instructed our Guru Maharaj that he should travel around the world and he should preach to the devotees. And Guru Maharaj, from a very young, I think by the time he was 8 years old, I'd heard from some of his family members, he'd finished reading the Gita, the Bhagavatam, and Caitanya-caritamrta. He was very, very attached to Caitanya-caritamrta. He wrote over 100 volumes of diaries. And if you go through some of those diaries volumes, which we may print some translations of sometime in the future, I don't know. There's many references to Caitanya-caritamrta and so many references to Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. That was his life and soul. So when he wanted to fulfill the instruction of Srila Prabhupada to preach to the devotees all over the world, especially he wanted, I feel, to show them who Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu is and give them a deeper understanding. Srila Prabhupada spoke some simple things. And he spoke about we should understand that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was Krishna himself. And he's very, very merciful. And that was pretty much the extent of most devotees' understanding. As we were speaking the other day, sometimes devotees almost, they think, to put this in kind of a disparaging way, that they think that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is like a doormat on the way to Krishna, that you just step on him and then you can go to Krishna. But that's not the purpose at all. If someone thinks like that, they've not understood Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. They've not understood Gaudiya Vaishnavism. It's not just that we worship Chaitanya Mahaprabhu because we want the holy name or because we want Radha Krishna or because we want love of God. But we worship Chaitanya Mahaprabhu because we want to do service to Srimati Radharani. Because Mahaprabhu Samarpaitam Unata Ujvala Rasasva Bhakti Shriyam. He's come to give this Manjari Bhav. That's the topmost thing. But unless we understand the position of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, how can we aspire for that thing? So Guru Maharaj in some of his talks, he would say that I know you're not qualified to hear this. And he said, I'm a fool for speaking this. He said, but I have to. He said, we want to speak as a service. And devotees should hear these subjects. As we were speaking in some other classes recently, from a lecture Srila Bhaktisiddhanta gave at Radhakram, which I think some of you have also heard me cite. It's one of our favorite quotations from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. He said that you should know that such things exist. He said, you're not qualified now, but you should know that such things exist. So he was doing this by giving us mangalacarana prayers. And this was kind of the warm-up. These mangalacarana prayers are kind of a door that was opening, helping the devotees to enter into the subject matter of Caitanya-caritamrta and his lectures, which have been compiled now into books like Embankment of Separation and Mathura Meets Vrindavan and others. So I'm going to go ahead and stop there. I'm sorry today was a little bit eclectic and it's also really late. We, Kushbu, Hare Krishna, you came late. We came here, we're in Vrindavan now, for those of you who came late and you didn't hear. There's a Goswami friend of ours in Mathura who had a very traditional Braj Bas wedding. And he wanted us to come. He paid for our tickets. We said, hey, we got to go. Someone's going to bring us to Braj. So that wedding went yesterday from 11 o'clock in the morning till 7 o'clock this morning, almost for 24 hours. It was quite intense, but quite blissful also. And seeing the ladies singing Braj Bhajans and things at different points, and just the culture and the families and things. It's very beautiful. But my brain's not quite all here today. I'm sorry. So I want to stop there. If anybody has any reflections or comments, anything, this would be a good time for that. Brinda Sundari, I don't know if you're there or not. I know you usually you have to go pretty soon. Do you want to share any reflections?
Yeah, thank you, Prabhu. I thought it was interesting how you were saying Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he's the most merciful and he gives his mercy to everyone. And you were saying like even to Ukraine, even to Russians and even to Ukraine, like but I mean, just like reading into that further, it's funny how sometimes we will wish that someone doesn't get Krishna's mercy. We'll actually think, oh, they don't deserve Mahaprabhu's mercy, or they don't deserve Krishna's mercy, but in our limited understanding, we may wish that someone doesn't get mercy. However, it's funny because actually when everyone is qualified to receive mercy, and it's good for everyone when someone gets mercy. So just kind of reflecting on that. And then, yeah, understanding the intention of the Lord, how important that is, especially like the Lord comes in different ways at different times and in different moods. And I was thinking, just like we may not understand someone's intention, but only when we're close with someone can we really understand someone's intention. So those are two things that stood out.
Well, that's beautiful. Very nice comments. Thank you, Linda. Yeah, I like your point. Sometimes we think, whoever took that last Mahasweet from the refrigerator, they're definitely not going to get mercy. They're cursed. We think something like that. We're angry with someone. But it's not a proper mood. Even sometimes we see parents. If someone is not a good parent, they're envious of their children. Or their children get so much attention, more attention than they get. Or they want to be very special. They don't want to see their children glorified. But a good parent wants to see their children do even better than them. And that was Srila Prabhupada's mood. We sometimes comment on this. We had a group of girls on Parikrama, about 8 to 12 years old, 40 some years ago. And after one of our talks, I took the Gopinath, we were walking. One of the girls stopped at one point. She looked at me, she said, Prabhuji, when I grow up, I want to be just like you. And I stopped and I said, no. And when I said no, very firmly like that, they were all kind of scared, shocked. And I said, no, you should be better than me. And really, and when I said that, looking in the face of that little girl, it really meant so much to her. And that's the mood of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu and his devotees. And if we're not in that mood, I don't know what line we belong to. Maybe some people are working for Yamarajas or Yamaduta, something, but they're not working for Nityananda Prabhu or Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Thank you, Brenda. I really appreciate your thoughts. Anything further from you? Hare Krishna. And Anupayani shows she's here, but I think she's on her scooter on her way back to Govindam right now. We had a kale party with her. Kushbu, do you want to share any reflections or anything? Today we are really running really fast and went through finish.
Actually, Prabhu, I have very bad throat today. Still, Hare Krishna, Prabhu. I was just contemplating on that point where I've seen many devotees, they chant Gour Hari, but they actually don't know the spirit, the mood of Mahaprabhu. They think that Mahaprabhu is different from Krishna. There's something like that. And it's very difficult to convince them also. And when I came to Krishna consciousness, I was also wondering, because I never knew anything about Mahaprabhu. But then gradually hearing lectures and reading Prabhupada's books, I came to know that Mahaprabhu is not different from Krishna. And your lectures really make me, go deeper. That especially I wrote that line, we worship Mahaprabhu because we want to worship Srimati Radharani. So that is a very important thing to understand. So I just tried to speak. My voice is really bad. I didn't go to BRC today for that. Got a throat infection because my wisdom tooth is growing. So thank you so much, Prabhu.
Go to a doctor or something. Take care of yourself, Krishna. Yeah, I see even with devotees who come to the line of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, don't think that just because someone has Gaudiya Vaishnava Tilak and Kunti Mala, and they say, hi, my name is Krishna Das or Prabhupada Das, I'm initiated in this line, that means they are a Gaudiya Vaishnava. They may be something of a Gaudiya Vaishnava, but there's degrees of Gaudiya Vaishnavas, and there's so many devotees, honestly, who come, and they have, because we all have this selfishness. We all think Atmavanamite Jagat, that the whole world is just existing for me. And whatever I'm seeing, everybody else wants the same kind of thing too. And therefore we're thinking when we come to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that let me do Mahaprabhu's bhajan a lot because that's going to be good for me. But the real mood, Tate Krishna Bhaji Kore Guru Sevan, the real mood is that we do bhajan for the pleasure of Gurudev, for the pleasure of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This is a Rahasya bhajan that Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu came to teach us. It's Rahasya because who can understand that? Everyone else is so full of selfish desires. And it's a very difficult thing. It's not just that we can just say this and now we've understood it. It takes quite a lot to understand this thing. But we have to begin somewhere. When we begin, at least we can conceptualize it and recognize our own shortcomings. As Bhaktivinoda Thakur describes in a series of lectures and articles that he wrote in Sajjana Toshani, which are later compiled into a book which has become Bhakti Tattva Vivek. He says there that if we don't understand what is Bhakti Abhas, what is Chaya Bhakti Abhas, what is Pratibimba Bhakti Abhas, what is Sudha Bhakti, what is the difference between the two, we may become discouraged because we'll think, well, I've been doing this for so many years and I'm not getting any result, so it doesn't work. There's something wrong. I have to go to some other line. I have to go to some other place. We should look very deeply in our own hearts. What is the mood that I'm doing my bhajan? There's no shortcoming in the Maha Mantra, the holy name. Prabhupada gave us everything in the name. But am I chanting that in the proper mood? That should be our thought. Thank you, Krishna. Do you have any other thoughts? Anything you want to share? Okay. Drink lots of hot liquid and maybe go to a doctor. You might even have to take some antibiotics. Not our favorite thing. Hare Krishna, Krishna. Thank you. Natalia, do you want to share anything?
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my obeisance. Thank you very much for this class.
Natalia, who's that little man behind you?
It's my son, Ekanat. So thank you very much for your example. What I was feeling now during this class. Thank you for your patient and humble repeating again and again the same things. That's just such a great. I just cannot imagine when or how could I do it also like that, like repeating and repeating, like it is as a discipline or such a taste. But I felt like grateful for this example. And also I have such a question. Do I understand right if we yes, sometimes I remember I was repeating this pranam mantra for Panchatattva to have some taste in my japa rounds, and it is like now I feel it is like abusing it. But if I sometimes really think like and in my like I feel like I'm lost, and in my heart and my somewhere inside me I repeat like Gauranga, like for just show me the way out of here, something like that. Is it different then? And also what is the place of all these bhajans of our acharyas and Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Gour More Parama Karuna Nitai Gaurachandra, they also existing. Thank you.
Yeah, as Guru Maharaj was saying, we're just reading Gaur Prabhu Rakshamam, that please protect me. We want to understand Gauranga Mahaprabhu, but it's a postgraduate subject. It's not an easy thing. So protect me means what? Protect me from myself. Protect me from my stupidity. Protect me from wanting to do the wrong thing. Please help me this way. Please help me to understand you. We're a work in progress. And as you're commenting, it's very important that we should hear this again and again and again. As we've been speaking so long on the Bhagavatam, the 47th chapter, the 10th the Brahma Gita, and how the connections between that Brahma Gita and Gour Lila. And one very important theme that we find throughout the Brahma Gita, repeated again and again, is the fact that Uddhava was repeating again and again. And in the commentaries of our acharyas, it comes up, I don't know, I can think at least 3 or 4 times throughout the chapter, how the gopis are hearing again and again and again. Each time they hear it, they understand something deeper. And sometimes something's being spoken, and it's not even for the gopis, it's just for outside people to make them confused and think that it's for some other thing. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is like that also, isn't it? Some people, they hear about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and they think, well, this is really great. He's here for me. That's why he came here to save me. And I want to be a Sankirtan devotee, and I'm going to get his mercy, and I'm going to go and I'm going to pray to him and distribute books. And that's good, but that's a partial understanding. We should try very deeply to understand the mood of Mahaprabhu by hearing. And we want to hear this again and again and again and again. Each time that we hear it, as the gopis are discussing, they understand something more each time from Uddhava. Okay, is that all right then, Natalia? You're okay?
Yes, thank you very much. It was exactly what I was needing.
Hare Krishna, thank you for taking part. And how about Radha Jivan Gopal Prabhu?
You said in the beginning of the class that, everyone in this world is doing bhajan for one's own advancement, but the Sakhis are doing bhajan to mitigate Radha's pain of suffering from separation. So I was just wondering, we want to do our bhajan to please Gurudev. I was wondering in what mood that we do our bhajan would be most pleasing for Gurudev.
Well, we do our bhajan the way Gurudev has taught us. And therefore, when Raghunath Das Goswami begins his Mukta Charit, he comments very famously, Namashreshtam, that amongst the different things my Gurudev has given me, he's given me Namashreshtam, the topmost name, which means what? The name is the name, but it means the conception of the name. And therefore, we have to also hear from Gurudev. We have to serve Gurudev. And by serving Gurudev in a confidential way, trying to understand Gurudev's mood, then we'll come more and more to understand something about Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu and his purpose in coming. But we'll get that blessing. He'll become very, very pleased if we can do that. But other people, not everyone's on that platform. That's also okay. Some people just want to chant, dance, and be happy and eat a lot of gulab jamuns and have some nice Mayapur pizza. And that's a lot of us. And that's also okay. Some people think that's the whole purpose of everything. That's all right, because they'll also come to some higher position. And we should become experts, though, ourselves in our own bhajan. Unless we're expert in our own personal bhajan, unless we're expert in understanding the purpose of our bhajan, then how can we express that to other people? And it's one reason for myself personally, I'm a little bit shy about speaking about bhajan. I've been speaking, that's all we speak about here, pretty much. But just recently, someone wrote to me that I've never met before, and they said, "Oh, we have this program a few days a week or something. We speak about bhajan, and could you please give a class for us?" And I wrote her back and I said, "Well, thank you very much, but I really don't like doing programs with groups that I don't know, and especially about the holy name, because it's something very private. That I have some certain feelings and things that I don't like to speak about in public." And then she wrote me back again. And I said, "I don't know, what do you think about all this?" And she wrote me back and said, "Well, actually, everybody here has been listening to your classes quite a lot. And they have faith in you and they like you." And I said, "Oh, in that case, then we can do something more." But there has to be some price. It's a simple price. It's not a selfish price, but people should have some faith in us. If they don't have faith in us, no problem. Don't become disturbed. Don't become angry. Why don't you have faith in me? Just they have good intelligence. Krishna's trying to tell you that you're stupid. And why should anybody have faith in me? So I should work harder in my bhajan and things. And if they do have faith in me and they want to hear something, then I can speak. Otherwise, we can't. Does that help something, Prabhuji?
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, because we're waiting for you guys. We're thinking about you on our prayer.
That's nice. I wish I was there with you. It looks super awesome.
Yeah, we had a great wedding yesterday. You should have been there for that. Well, I'll tell you, it's so wonderful. We were talking about cows. Let me just say a couple of words about cows. You want to hear about cows. We were talking about how we should love all cows. And somebody was saying that the Videshi cows are also cows. And I was thinking about that I grew up drinking their milk. So they're my mothers. I should love them. But at the same time, when I see the Indian cows, there's a big difference between the Indian cows and the Western cows. And then if I see the cows in Delhi and the cows in Vrindavan, my God, there's a big difference between the cows in Vrindavan and the cows in Delhi. They're so very special. You can see in their faces the intelligence and they're just love and tranquility. Very, very special. Anyway, thank you so much. So we got to come to Braj and hug some cows.
That sounds great.
Tirthakar Prabhu, do you want to share anything? You won any prize today?
Yeah, a similar line as Vrinda Sundari spoke. I was inspired when you were reading that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu doesn't discriminate who is fit candidate or who is not. You know, and I'm very much inspired. You are mentioning it on many classes, that we should not judge what other devotees are doing, even if it is maybe in our eyes, maybe very degrading activity even. But we don't see. I remember even you were telling this story about this butcher devotee, you know. So yeah, that was kind of what inspired me, that we should not. It actually destroyed a lot of relationships and created a lot of conflicts in our society, this judging mentality.
One thing we were at this wedding, and we were there because as a friend of ours wanted us to come, and it was interesting. A Bijbasi wedding. I can't say that it was always super relishable, but I learned a lot. And one of the things that I really learned from some of the devotees who were there, who were speaking with them, and first thing I was doing is I was just being myself, and I didn't try to present myself in a way that I'm not. But just I'm a Videshi, I don't understand Hindi, I don't understand Bijbas, and I feel so blessed to be here and be watching this thing. And then we were discussing about different types of weddings. And I watch sometimes the rituals and things, and I've seen how they do things sometimes in South India. And Orissa is very different. Manipur is very different from that. West Bengal is different. Vrindavan is very different. Gujarat is different. They do things differently in each different place. A lot of times the Western devotees don't realize that. And I was commenting to this Indian devotee how for the Westerners, we need some culture. And you have this culture behind the wedding, you have philosophy behind all the rituals and things that you do. We need that, but we don't know where to get it. So we just, we go to a little box and we add some water and we shake and we try to have instant culture. But it doesn't work like that because the culture is different for everybody. And our culture that we have in Czech is going to be different than the culture you have in Hungary, different from the culture in China, different from the culture in West Bengal, different from the culture in Colorado, different from the culture in Russia, et cetera, by necessity. And as we were speaking to, there were some really beautiful people. There was, I met, I think there was about 5 or 6 PhDs, at least, and people who were studying philosophy and interesting subject matters. It was really a very nice gathering, very high-class people. And one of the things that was coming out repeatedly to me was that how the Indian culture is so inclusive and how they have a wealth of diversity. And in an Indian culture, they're not threatened. They don't feel threatened by some crazy Videshis like ourselves who come in, we're not clean, we don't know how to eat, we don't know how to talk, we don't know how to do anything. But because we're trying to be Vaishnavas, they greet us with love and affection, so much love and affection. It's very, very heartwarming. And you really felt part of everything. And there's also devotees there from South India, and some from West Bengal, and some from Gujarat, and here and there, from many different cultures. And the rituals and things they were doing, not everybody could understand. It was different for everyone. One of the things they did that really struck me was after all the wedding ceremony was over, the father of the bride sat down with the friends of the groom. And he called all of them around and we all had some talk. And he was just speaking to them, how you should encourage your friend to take care of our daughter. And then he gave all of them, I was one of them, he gave me 100 rupees and he put some tilak on my forehead. Put some tilak on my forehead and he's indicating you're our goshti. You're our friend now. We're part of this thing. It is such a beautiful community spirit. And in that community spirit, there's no necessity that everybody has to think exactly alike. And for those devotees, I'd like to strongly suggest, I know you have some in Czech, who want to have Vedic culture and do everything Vedic and whatever, they really should come and spend some deep time in India and see, not just in one place either, but go to different places and meet high-class people. Not just the rickshawallahs or whatever, but some of the high-class families. This is a Goswami Brahmin family. Meet some high-class people and see their culture that they have. And you'll find that the essence of that culture is diversity. They celebrate diversity and are not threatened by it. It's a beautiful thing. I don't know, you have any other reflections or comments you want to share to that? Okay. Thank you, Tirtha Prabhu. And let's see here, Leela Purushottam Guru. We have to hear from him also, I think we do.
No problem. Yeah, I really love the last sentence now, that their conception of Vedic culture is a celebrating of diversity, because we are so often beaten with the conception of culture that it must look like, and then the borders are like smaller and smaller. How does the Vedic culture look like? So this was wonderful. And I have actually one question, because from the beginning when we were discussing like both of the Mangala charans, then you were always like repeating those three purposes, the Vastu Nirdesh, Ashirvad, and Pranam. And now last few sessions, somehow you brought into a picture this connection with Tattva Sandarbha. I believe it's Baladev's commentary to that's the Adhikar and Sambandha. And now my question is like, because it's so I'm just not sure if I got it right. Like, does it mean that the when you recite the Mangala Charan, your purpose for it, from that part of the statement of the what you connected with Sandarbhas, is to help the audience to have the adhikar for the topic and create a sambandha to the topic that you're going to discuss? Do I understand it right?
Yeah, we want to create their adhikar and we want to recognize their adhikar. Mm-hmm. When we talk about adhikar, a child can only ride a tricycle maybe. And so you understand, you recognize that he's never ridden a two-wheel bicycle. But your goal then is to get him to ride a two-wheel bicycle. Maybe because you understand he's only ridden a three-wheeler, you have to hold him or something, hold the bike when he's first going or something. So when we speak about adhikar, it's both in the sense of recognizing the position and in trying to raise the position or something more.
And that might be, or there is a desire that it is achieved by the procedure of Mangalacharana. Do I connect it right? Or
the Mangalacharana, I think, helps with that. It's a statement of purposes, and it's there to help the devotees understand if they're going deep into it, and that's according to their adhikar. With someone with shallow adhikar, I remember the very first time I heard my Guru Maharaj give class in Alachua, Florida. And one of the things that attracted me immediately was his Mangalacharana. Mm-hmm. And I knew he was a Bhagavatam Mangalacharana. I knew some of the verses, but I didn't know all of them. And I'd never seen anybody who did a Mangalacharana like that. And a lot of the devotees were talking about it. Wow, that's really far out. So he accomplished something. I didn't understand all the points that he wanted to make at all. But one very simple thing that he accomplished was this is authorized. This is, I got that. And I got the importance of reciting prayers. And I had some understanding of there's something deeper here that I want to go into. I'm going to have to contemplate in a very serious way.
Yeah, that was my like second part of that question was like, if it's at all like you can think that you can achieve those results, both Sambandha and Adhikar, if like for example these verses, I'm quite sure that except for the followers of Govinda Maharaj and disciples, at most places that Maharaj came and started to recite those mangalacarana verses, the devotees either heard them first time or didn't just knew the translations by the heart. So in that sense, like I would like to ask how important it is to not, first of all, from the position of audience, to not take it just, okay, there are some verses recited, like without deeper concern what is the speaker intending to impress upon me. That would be one thing. And then from the position of the speaker, how important for him is that he knows that the audience understands even this very beginning part as Mangalacarana is.
Gour Maharaj is also, this is something I don't know if we spoke about at all in all this discussion about our Mangalachaраnas. It's a very important point, which you just reminded me of. Gour Maharaj would recite the Mangalacarana prayers, but that wasn't all he would do. In the West, then he would speak generally for about half an hour about the glories of the Bhagavatam. And those glories of the Bhagavatam, it usually meant he would take one or two or three of the verses from his Mangalacarana and expound on them and give some understanding for that. He didn't do that in Bhubaneswar. I never saw him doing that with the disciples there, devotees who were regularly hearing from him. But he always did that as a policy in the West. So it goes along with it. That was his purpose. He wants us to understand some deeper thing.
Yeah, it's like that would be his desire for creating that sambandha for the devotees. Like we're going to discuss Bhagavatam, and that's why I want to glorify Bhagavatam. So that
when we speak about Sambandha also has a deep purport. On one hand, it means that hey, we're followers of Srila Prabhupada. And oh yeah, I'm a Sambandhi. I belong to that group. So I can relate to that. We're speaking English. Oh yeah, I can belong to that. I'm an ISKCON devotee. I belong to that. But and we're having Bhagavatam. But another I think is that he's creating a Sangha. By speaking Bhagavatam, we're creating some Sangha. Mm-hmm. So I like those. You're touching on that thing from Bala Vidyabhushan. That's really something I haven't heard from Gour Maharaj before, but I read that recently and it really struck me. It's been coming out.
Yeah, it helped me so much to increase because these three basic things mentioned in Caitanya-caritamrta, it's like more or less obvious if I say so. But when you come with this Adhikar and Sambandha terms, it gave a whole another purpose to Mangalacarana.
And it makes us realize we need to become mature. I mean, devotees like in your situation, or Tirthakar Prabhu, sometimes devotees in Italia, you're in some temple where maybe the katha is not always inspiring for you. But we need to be mature and understand this is what the devotees are inspired by, this is what they like. And if I come in and try to say something more, usually they get upset. So I should just understand and respect their adhikar in this situation. I'm going to have to stop. We got to talk with Dhanamash. I want to read Radhajivan Gopal Prabhu's comment. Talking of the wedding is making me think of how the beauty of their cultural interactions is a natural way, it is in the natural way it is expressed and not out of obligatory ritual, like how Nanda Maharaj greeted Uddhava. It was an interesting thing. I know some of the rituals. I used to do some of that stuff. Please don't ask me to do that stuff. I really don't like doing rituals. But I used to do some of that stuff. And I know I've done weddings, and I know the traditional wedding that there's a Kanyadana, Kushbu understands this, that's a really important part. They give the bride. And so we were watching for that. And I heard him saying some things in the mantras with it, but I didn't see, they have like the brother comes or the father generally gives the daughter like that. I didn't see that. And okay, and then later on during the ceremony, when things are pretty much finished, this lady came and she was really intensely arguing with the pujari. And she was really uptight, and I could hear, I didn't understand the Hindi, but I could understand they were talking about this Kanya-dana, and she was upset why you didn't do this thing. And he was saying, well, you guys didn't show up. The wedding ceremony, the rituals, the actual wedding started at 3 o'clock in the morning. And everybody was up all night before. By the time the ritual started, there wasn't so many devotees left. So there's no one there to do the Kanya-dana. Now, the reason I'm mentioning this point is that some people are so intent about certain rituals. And this mother, she was a mother, the bride. She was very, look, in our culture, in our system, we always do this, and this is so very, very important. How can we not do this thing? This is absolutely important. It must go on. But from another perspective, that's just an external thing, because there's 8 different types of weddings. One of which is just you exchange garlands. That's also considered to be a marriage ceremony. What is the essence of that marriage ceremony? According to Gopal Bhatta Goswami, the essence of it is is to develop our sambandha with Radha and Krishna. And there's verses like that in the Sakriya Sardipika, the wedding ceremonies, that we're doing a ceremony to establish our relationship with Radha Krishna. But some people, they just see this particular external rituals and they become really hung up about that. And that poor pujari, at one point he was yelling at her and they were having a shouting match. And then he finally got kind of quiet and he listened to her and kind of calmed her down. And he said some things. But I could see when we were leaving, she was not happy about that. So some people, they really feel the need for certain rituals and things. And it's ironic to me in our society because we really don't know what these rituals and things mean. As I've often commented, we don't even know why we keep this finger out of our bead bag. And our bead bag thing, that's the main thing that we do. We don't even know that one basic, simple thing, but we just do it because everybody tells us to do that. So, anyway, I better stop. We have to see Ghana Maharaj. So thank you, Leela. And we were thinking about you guys too. We're going to be coming sometime. Krishna Kumar was telling me about some of our plans and stuff. It's too much for me to drive all the way from Hungary to Germany and drive all the way back to I'll die. But,
yeah, I suggested to Krishna Kund Mataji that the flight is actually, it's very short flight, Budapest to Frankfurt, and it will be so much easier for you.
Yeah.
And then on the way back, we can split it into 2 parts.
Yeah, I've never been to the Nishima farm there. Okay, thank you all very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Samaveda Bhaktivinoda ki jai, Go Premanandi, Go Vancha Prabhupada Rubishcha.